Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Muhammad Awo. Welcome to the premiere episode of Honest Conversations with Mo. And this show will kind of give you a little insight into not only things that I think about often, but kind of, if we're being honest, kind of things we all think about. So, to kind of get into the first topic, before getting into the first topic, I just want to say, hope everybody's doing well, everybody's safe, everybody's inside during this crazy time in our society, during this pandemic, and I hope everybody's doing well. So for the first topic, what I've been thinking about is kind of the concept of change, and change in the sense of how it impacts and affects us as individuals, because we think of change more so in a straight line, in that we think past, present, and future. We kind of look to our past often and always harp back on that in order to continue into our present and into our future. But what I kind of want to remove is that concept of change, because I don't think we truly change. We still stay in the same mindset even though we've changed, whether it be our scenery, whether it be the people we surround ourselves with, and also in the sense of the things we do. So that may constantly change, but I don't think we ever truly change because we still have those same habits and that same mindset. In actuality, it's just something we're looking to escape from. What I want to get into is more so in terms of not looking at change, but looking at evolution. So by evolution, what I mean is being more so like a ray. If you think back to, I want to say eighth grade geometry, eighth, ninth grade geometry, what have you, in terms of array, that endpoint, and then continuing beyond that, having that endpoint, and then just continuing. So what I will kind of get into is how that really looks, because there's always evolution of things as far as everything else, but I don't think we as humans try to truly evolve in terms of always looking back instead of continuously moving forward and allowing to be what happened in the past, just remain that in the past. And I myself, I struggle with it. It's not something I've got down pat. It's just kind of something I've really been thinking about as of late. Something that's really kind of been insightful is last doc, this Last Dance documentary, the '98 Bulls, and how we see kind of this. We kind of look back at this '98 Bulls team as they're going through the timeline in terms of how they, the different moves they've made and how that progressed into a six-time, two three-peats NBA dynasty in terms of those '90s Bulls. But now, as we're looking at it now in 2020, during this crazy time, during this pandemic, and all I see, throughout my timeline, throughout everything, is comparisons. Oh, can this Bulls team, compete in this era? And it's great for debate, but I think it's also kind of missing the point in terms of, all right, that Bulls team was great for their era, and we've seen how the game of basketball has evolved. So there's no need to compare the Michael Jordan to LeBron James kind of debate that that's constantly always happening. Uh, Definitely, it definitely in my inner circles. I don't know about your inner circles, but definitely in my inner circles, there's always a constant debate. But kind of to get back on topic, this change and this concept of change is always feeling as if you need to move in a manner where you have these truths about yourself and your own personal conclusions about world the world and how you see the world, whether it be not only yourself, those around you, but just overall life, and understanding that that is something that needs to shift. And I say shift in that, um, you know, kind of, I'll get into, my own personal conclusion. My own personal conclusion in mine is I always felt I always felt my voice didn't matter, in that, what I say, so, what I say doesn't matter. And I always, I'm willing to, stay in the background. Not necessarily that that's a bad thing, but in that I don't fully uh, voice the things and my concerns in terms of my life. So that's a personal conclusion of mine, and how that's evolved in terms of the change is, oh, whether it be the different opportunities and not fully speaking up and standing up for myself, or just personal things, dealing with family, friends, relationships. And I think those personal conclusions always, kind of harp in that as far as my scenery has changed, the people I've connected with have changed, but I and myself, if I'm going to be completely honest, I have not changed. And what I'm kind of trying to get to is I'm trying to stop being that straight line and kind of being that endpoint and letting those things be, and knowing that that doesn't define me. Even though that ideal, that personal conclusion, that thing I always say to myself is, oh, because your personal conclusion is your thoughts of how you view yourself. You know, you're going to be completely honest with yourself, sit down and just have an honest talk with yourself. That personal conclusion is something you're scared to reveal to the rest of the outside world. And it's something that we all have. It is something that we may not often, bring up, but it's that unease, that inability to really feel as if you're a part of something. And that's kind of something I hopefully, through this podcast, as I continue through these conversations, be able to kind of, delve into and kind of progress over time. Um, so when we think about how, uh, just thinking about how we are now, in this pandemic, and how we're all locked inside, and we're all seeing, oh, the different, the importance of, being at home and being with our loved ones and being with those that really care about us, and truly seeing things for how they are. Moving from always, constantly being told, oh, you can't really work from home and things like that. And now we're seeing that it's possible, and we're seeing, the importance of connection over, and that unity over, self gratification. And we all have self gratification. We all have done things that we may not be proud of, if we're going to be completely honest, that we've done to get over on somebody else. And it's a concept that definitely needs to stop, but I think it's always going to be there in society, as we continue on further, because honestly, we all are, we can only view our own worlds through our own lenses. And that being, we all have our own truths, and that, whether it be how you define yourself, how you define society, that's also your own truth. But you also have to realize that's only your own perspective as well. That's just how you see the world, but the world is completely open. What is truth, what is really out there, and we don't know until we make it possible, and that's only through our actions. As your thoughts don't define you, your actions do. And it's something that will come with time, it'll come with experience, and it'll come with, really truly being honest with yourself and feeling things. And that, and understanding that you don't need to feel as, or chase change, but I think chasing evolution. Chasing that understanding of, okay, this is where I was, but this is where I'm going, so here are the things I no longer need to do, or knowing that these are the things you need to avoid in order to evolve. Um, and it's not looking at those past lessons um, as a hindrance, but as just opportunities to really envision the future you want to build for yourself. And that's definitely, something that's challenging, something that's may not be easy, and it's, a constant battle. Something you'll constantly battle within yourself every moment, every choice you make. Um, is it something that you're escaping from your past, or is it something that is in line with the future you want to build with yourself? And I think that's the most important part in that, in these talks I want to have, is how do we get from no longer thinking of change, but more so, finding, being an array and finding that endpoint and continuing to progress. Um, so thank you guys for tuning in for the first ever episode of Honest Conversations with Mo. Um, Definitely check me out on social media. My Instagram, Somali Treasure, SOMALI Treasure, as well as on Twitter, Mo_Awo1. So that's Mo, MO_AWO1 on Twitter. And definitely, if you want to, continue these topics off air and want to have further discussions, definitely reach out to me and definitely stay in touch. And I appreciate you guys listening, and really, especially in this time, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I know I struggle with my own, mental health, my own battles, with my bipolar disorder and things like that. And during this time, just, being at peace with yourself and understanding that this is during this crazy time that we are in our world, in our society, in our lives, and that just have peace and patience with yourself, and no longer just look for change, but look, just find that right. Let that moment of yesterday not allow it to affect your future for tomorrow. And it's definitely something I'm working on, and hopefully you all are too. And I thank you all, and have a good one.